What's up, everyone? This is Kronos, aka Adam, back with another AEW Week in Review. Unfortunately, I had recorded this episode. I'm using new software and hardware, trying to get the channel a little better. And with everything like this, problems happen. I didn't record any of it. I just spoke in front of a camera for about a half an hour for no reason. So I was a little frustrated, so I had to take a break, play some Apex Legends, and now I'm back. First and foremost, if you haven't heard the news, the Snyder Cut is coming out, Justice League. So just a little things for that in honor of the movie. I don't know why it's not looking straight. There we go. Anyway, so as always, you can find me on my social media stuff there. So this is the AEW Week in Review on the road. These are the go-home shows to Double or Nothing, which is airing tonight. I'll be posting a preview and predictions video after I finish this one, as well as my WWE recap coming tomorrow, as well as a review reactions for Double or Nothing. As I said, this is the road to Double or Nothing. They had their go-home shows, so I'm going to try and get through these as briefly as possible because I do have a lot to do. So, still working on the glare on my glasses, but hopefully, we're going to get to that. So as always, I review BTE, AEW Dark, and AEW Dynamite, as well as my match of the week. So I'm going to run through those real quick, and hope you enjoy. All right. So for BTE this week on Monday, the name of the episode was Monologue, which we don't actually understand until the very end, which I'll get to. So we start off with Kenny receiving a Zoom call, doesn't know where it's from. It turns out it's Colt Cabana. He's obviously not very happy that the Bucks gave Kenny his private Zoom number. Once Colt comes into frame, he gets very upset. Colt says that he doesn't want any heat, any lawsuits, etc. Lawsuits, obviously, if you know the history of Colt Cabana, you'll understand that. He just wants to start fresh. So it says it's just them, just the two of them talking. They even use their shoot names. So Kenny starts to put Colt Cabana over, and that he didn't want Colt Cabana taking the spot, which is the root of the issue between the two. Colt said he just wanted to, he wanted to get the Flip Gordon or Massa treatment. If you know Flip Gordon and Massa, they were personalities on Being the Elite, turning nobodies into somebodies. So Kenny basically said that he was just jealous of him, like he is of Hangman, because Kenny is saying that Hangman got over by just being an alcoholic. So we then cut to Matt Jackson's home, where his wife, Mrs. Matt, wants to get him to throw out the trash. He then pretends to bang his head and get some color, blade himself so they can get out of taking out the trash. We then get back to Kenny and Colt, more discussions over the Zoom call. Says that, he used to be great at everything, but his crisis of confidence kind of started in a school play that he lost out the role to Willem Dafoe. Apparently went to school with Willem Dafoe, even though Willem Dafoe is much older. He says that it probably stemmed from Kenny dating his sister, Willis Dafoe. And, but Colt said that he's opening up, and that's the first step to, figuring out the issue and working together. We then get to Private Party, where we get another previously, we show, them getting attacked, Hangman on the phone with whoever the friend Bones is, if he was the one that kind of set it all up. Cassidy says he knows who did it to Quinn. It's Hangman Pussy Pants Page, because he never paid them for the money, and Hangman is always stealing the booze. So then Cassidy calls Hangman, and says that he knows it was him, he knows he sent those guys, and that he challenges Bones and the Bear to a backyard match, and the $12 that apparently Kenny owes for the drinks is on the line. We then get a shot at the BTE compound. Nick is waiting for Matt. Matt finally shows up. He's got a Band-Aid on his head, back from when he had some color. We then get Broken Matt Hardy explanation of what color is, with Broken Brilliance. Bleeding the hard way is the idea of unintentional bleeding, so thank you for that, Matt Hardy. So Nick says that, he didn't just bring them there just to hang out, but he wanted to show them that he's building a new ring in the backyard. Obviously, he doesn't know, when things will start to get better, and obviously they want to stay in shape, and possibly, who knows, maybe film some stuff there as they did when they rented the PWG ring in the compound. So we get a montage of them building the ring, which is pretty cool. We then go back to Kenny and Cole. Kenny said he's going to come up with a new bit for them, that it'll start to put Cole over, put him in the spotlight, but he says that it'll take maybe a year, so Cole obviously starts to get a little nervous as to, why is it going to take so long. So he tells Kenny he'll just call Nick and say that there's nothing for him at this point. We then get a quick Justin Roberts with the man bun again. And then finally, to the reason for the title monologue, we get Hangman in the woods, kind of on the mountainside. Says he can't drink whiskey anymore. Can't just drink whiskey, and that he tried to drink his own piss. But if you are familiar with a lot of the things, and I forgot to put my phone on silent. Oh my god. And it's not even a number I know. Amateur hour. Anyway. So if you know back from when they were doing All In, the issue with Hangman and Joey Ryan where piss was involved, you'd understand that. So he was apparently climbing a redwood tree, and he saw a bald eagle flew past him toward its nest, and that obviously gave him kind of thoughts of that he should go home. But he doesn't want to get infected, he doesn't want to infect anyone, says he's not being careful enough. He starts talking about just all sorts of random things, things like doing chores, winning the coveted Man of the House award, even though I don't know if he's the only, I know he has children, but I just don't know if he has boys or girls. Eating toast, but he mostly just wants to go home because he's out of whiskey. And so yeah. So we'll see how much of this, if anything, bleeds into Dark Dynamite. Obviously, we've seen some references to it through Jericho. So we'll see. I hope that it starts to become more involved in the storylines. All right, so now we're going to go to AEW Dark. So I'm going to go through this as quickly as possible. As I said, I have a lot to get through this week. Let me just make sure this is recording now. Yep, it's recording. All right, so our first match, this is actually a supersized edition of Dark, about an hour and a half, which is longer than they normally do, but I guess because, this is the go-home show to Double or Nothing, so I guess that's what they wanted to do. So our first match is Danny Jordan versus Shida. Danny Jordan has been coming up a little bit. She's doing the Mean Girls gimmick. She has the burn book, really strong base to her. She hits the Widow's Bell DDT, the draping DDT on the second rope for a 2 count on Shida. Then she gets Shida in a Fujiwara armbar. Shida eventually rolls through it, gets out of that. Shida hits a running knee in the corner, then a missile drop kick, and then this is a really cool series. So Shida hits a step up enziguri. Danny Jordan then hits a German release suplex, no sold by Shida into kind of like a last shot. And then for a 2 count, and then Shida eventually hits the Falcon Arrow for the win. I like Danny Jordan. I think she put on a really good match there. We'll see. Obviously, a lot of these people from the Nightmare School are able to, parlay that into, actual contracts. I know Anna Jay was one, but I actually haven't seen her wrestle since then, I think. So that's a little interesting. Maybe they're just saving her. Who knows? So next match we get is QT Marshall versus Clutch Adams. On the Road to series, we get a shot of QT going to DDP's house again, talking about the Lance Archer match and how his ribs were all banged up. And as always, DDP's solution is to just do the DDP rib tape. If you remember from DDP back in WCW, he always had rib issues and was always just taping his ribs. So obviously, Clutch goes right after them to start. QT gets a back body drop over the top rope onto the ramp on Clutch. He hits QT hits a backbreaker flatliner combo, eventually hits a cutter for the win on Clutch Adams. So QT Marshall gets the win there. We then get Marco Stunt versus Jason Cade. Marco gets an absolute potato shot in the face by Jason Cade, obviously unintentional, but he's all busted up and bloody. Cade hits a spike DDT from the second rope, but only gets a 2 count. Marco hits a suicide dive through the bottom rope into Cade, which he goes into the barricade. Marco, while Cade is kind of on the second rope, grabs him, hits a razor's edge. He then eventually hits a 450 splash from the top rope for the win. All right. We then get a tag team match: Kip Sabian, Jimmy Havoc versus Lee Johnson and Musa, who are kind of like the everyday utility players for both Dynamite and Dark. So it starts out with Jimmy with an absolute, once again, potato shot on Musa. Apparently commentary of Excalibur and Taz, they loved it. Love seeing those stiff shots. Musa and Lee get some offense on Kip. Then Kip and Jimmy double team offense on Musa. They do like a modified heart attack where instead of a clothesline, he hits a boot. Kip gets a rising knee strike on Musa. We get an assisted PK on Musa where what's his name? Jimmy kind of puts his finger on top of his head like he's holding the football. Then we get Lee with the hot tag, starts going against Jimmy Havoc. Jimmy eventually hits an acid rainmaker, then the Fisherman DDT for the win. We then get Phoenix versus the Captain Sean Dean. Phoenix kind of does his spin into the ropes and then kind of comes out of it with a hook kick to Sean Dean's face. Huge loud chops. Taz loves it. He absolutely loves the loud chops. We get a tope con hero by Sean Dean onto Phoenix where he hits his legs on the barricade. Looked rough, but could have broken an ankle, but he seemed fine. Let's see. We get Phoenix with a roll through into the ring drop kick. Then we get a ripcord roundhouse kick by Phoenix. He does a flip into the ring, but it's actually caught by Dean into like a tiger driver for a 1 count. Eventually, Phoenix hits his muscle buster driver for the win. We then get Luther versus John Cruz. There's a lot of histrionics and yelling by Luther about being the original Death Dealer, yada yada yada. I didn't really care for this match. Eventually, Luther gets him in the camel clutch, but instead of kind of grabbing under the chin, he does the face rake, and John Cruz submits. We then get Private Party versus Mike Reed and Ryan Rembrandt. Cassidy hits a Rana on, I believe, Rembrandt, and then him and Quinn break into a kid and play dance. Rembrandt hits a Northern Light suplex on Cassidy for a 2 count. Quinn eventually gets the hot tag. There's a lot of sloppiness in this match with Reed and Rembrandt. It didn't make a Private Party look good at all. I mean, they did the best they could, but you could tell that this was just, they weren't on the same page. There's this big combo with Private Party. They do like a flip into a stunner, then held for a PK, then an assisted sliced bread on Rembrandt, but the pin gets broken up. They go for the silly string, but that gets botched. There's a springboard X Factor by Cassidy. It looks like they're going to go for Gin and Juice, and then the commentary's even calling for it, and then eventually it just gets all like kind of miscommunication. Cassidy just goes for a senton off the top rope for the win. I was not happy with Ryan Rembrandt and Mike Reed in this one. They did well in last week's Dark. I forgot who they faced, but this just looked, everyone was off on that match. Sammy Guevara versus Alan Angels is next. Alan Angels I happen to like a lot. I think he should get signed. I hope he gets signed. Obviously there was that stupid controversy where he was like, he got too much offense in on Kenny. Sorry, just making sure I'm not getting work emails here. Sammy does his does a little showing off, then does his kind of spin, b-boy thing. We get huge chops by Angels. Angels goes over the back, off the ropes, over the back, and then kind of into like some kind of cross face combination, which is pretty cool. He does the mocking of the spin move. Sammy then hits a rising knee strike while Angels was in midair. Pretty cool. Sammy gets him up on his shoulders, starts squatting him. Angels counters that into a crucifix pin for a 2 count. Sammy starts, he does a stalling suplex. Then he goes for that where he jumps off the top rope and just kind of lands on his feet and slaps the guy. Angels blocks that, but then eventually Sammy hits him with the Burning Hammer GTS for the win. We then get our main event, which is Darby Allin versus Serpentico. Serpentico actually has like streamers in his entrance, like they do in ROH. So there's a lot of speed, a lot of countering for both of them. Mat-based stuff to start. There's a big arm drag by Darby. Darby eventually gets sent into the ring steps on the outside. Serpentico back in the ring hits a cutter for a 1 count. Darby uses Aubrey Edwards, the referee, to kind of distract, get in his way so that he can get the advantage. Kind of heelish, but I can see Darby starting to heel-like qualities. I think obviously he's been very frustrated of what's going on, especially you could tell his interactions with Taz lately. He's been very frustrated, so we'll see how that goes. So then Darby hits a superplex only for a 2 count. He goes for a coffin drop, but that fails. Then back body drops Serpentico out of the ring, then hits a coffin drop on the outside. Eventually back in the ring, hits the Last Supper for the win. So that is your Go Home Dark episode. Obviously, still mostly predictable episodes. Well, not mostly, pretty all predictable this episode. So we're, I think hopefully, well, obviously I don't know. I hope that soon that they start to bring better matches on, between not just enhancement talent but actual wrestlers on the roster. So we'll see. And now we have the go-home show of Dynamite. Yes, for Double or Nothing. So we have the Inner Circle showing up in a limo. Alex Marvez comes out to interview them, and they just absolutely abuse him, tell him, just to shut your ass and all this other stuff. It's pretty funny. That they give a cryptic preview of what they're going to do to the Elite today. Ortiz eventually grabs Alex Marvez's tie clip, says it's worth something, and walks off. So the first match is 10 Preston Vance of the Dark Order versus Jon Moxley. 10 is with Brody Lee and some members of the Dark Order. Apparently, during an interview on the Road 2 video on AEW's YouTube page, Tony Schiavone mentioned the word cult, and Brody Lee took off his mic and was cursing in the background. Apparently doesn't like the word. Who would? If you are a cult, why would you want to be called a cult with all the connotation that represents? So he cuts a promo before the match. Brody says just like everyone else, he knows that it could be intimidating to see him, but it's just like everyone else. He makes 10 kneel, says it's the proper way, then anoints him a Knight of the Dark Order. I think this is obviously in place of Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, who I believe are still in Canada at this point and have not been able to get out. So Moxley comes in from the crowd as typical. Brody and the rest of the Dark Order leave. Moxley dominates pretty much from the get-go. Hits an X-Plex on 10. 10 gets him offense on the outside. Hits a ripcord cutter back in the ring for a 2 count. Hits his big spine buster. And as I said last week, they were using that as his finishing move. But the problem is that he, the spine buster, maybe on enhancement talent or smaller guys, that's one thing. But the problem is that, on Moxley, you're not going to fish him off with a spine buster. So he didn't even go for the cover there, but even if he did, obviously that wouldn't have worked. So we'll see if they end up giving him a different finishing move. Let's see here. So Moxley hits the paradigm shift, then does his kind of neuralizer style pile driver, and then hits the Death Rider, which is basically the paradigm shift, but you kind of hold him up in the air, is mostly what he was doing in New Japan. So he gets the win there. He then brings 2 chairs in, puts Preston Vance's number 10's arm in there, and screams to Brody that he needs to come out before he breaks his arm. Brody's on the monitor, says that if he wanted the title back, all he had to do was ask. He'll see him Saturday, and that he's leaving. So Moxley goes, all right, and then does like a concerto on number 10's arm, probably breaking it, and then he leaves. We then get MJF versus Marco Stunt. Marco beat MJF once on the Indies, apparently. That was mentioned during the preview for Dynamite on one of their AEW videos. So MJF is basically no-selling all of Marco's offense. MJF tries to kind of embarrass him, kind of making him slap himself, making Marco slap himself and all this kind of stuff. Eventually, Wardlow gets a little assistance on the outside, pulling Marco's head through the rope, so the rope is on his neck. So Marco then gets some drop kicks on MJF, then hits a running knee. MJF is sent to the outside, tries to get Marco in the apron when Marco slides out, but he misses. He misses his axe handle. Then sent into the steps. Back in the ring, MJF hits his butterfly shoulder breaker, then into the Salt of the Earth, the Fujiwara armbar for the win. He then grabs a mic, cuts a promo, saying that he was going to try and get someone to kiss Marco, but that no one would ever kiss Marco, and so that he's going to make him kiss the ring. So Wardlow puts it on his finger and he punches him in the head. Obviously, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus come out, and MJF and Wardlow leave, setting up kind of the match between MJF and Jungle Boy. See my predictions video to see who I think is going to win that match. We then get a great segment. Jake Roberts and Arn Anderson in the ring interview, kind of like an 8-foot table between them, sitting on either side. The back and forth between them is great. Apparently, they've never fought in the ring together, which I find kind of odd. I didn't expect that. I think they were at WWE at the same time, but maybe their paths never crossed, or maybe it was just never televised. I don't know anything about any other promotions, WCW or otherwise. We'll see. I'm sure someone can find that out if they've ever crossed paths. Arn says that what they have is credibility, that Jake is pure evil. Jake says he's been to hell and back, and that another, one trip with Arn would be definitely worth it. So, he's obviously wants to fight Arn. According to Arn, speaking with Tony Khan, that Mike Tyson will have free reign, to kind of walk around, be involved in any which way he wants, which is interesting, which will obviously play into the match, kind of shades of WrestleMania, when he was there for Shawn Michaels versus Stone Cold Stone. And Jake says he'd knock him out, Tyson, but he's leaving that for Lance. He says Brandy is a bimbo. And then we get on talking about how Cody said to him that, he needs this win because it needs to validate him, AEW, his place in AEW. And that he also says that he wants everyone to know that Jake has been doing DDP yoga and he wants him nice and limber for when he gets a spine buster. Jake does not appreciate that, flips the table, and the refs come out to break it up. So we'll see what kind of, between the two of them that gets involved. We then get a Darby Allin vignette. Obviously, there's a high production value. Apparently, he went to film school. So this one has like a guitar, acoustic guitar playing in the background where a bunch of him and his friends are playing cards, and they all have the face masks of like the paper of the competitors in the casino ladder match for Double or Nothing. We then get a Pac vignette. Obviously, he's been in England, due to the pandemic. He's not been able to travel. We get kind of like a well-dressed version of him versus Pandemic Pac, kind of like with his, with the mask on, but he's in full gear. He's talking about how Death Triangle is still going strong, even though they're not together. He starts talking a lot of shit on Orange Cassidy, and that Phoenix is an assassin, going to take him out, but that he's not done with him. So hopefully, we'll get another match with Pac and Orange Cassidy down the road, which would be pretty cool because their match was really good at Revolution, I believe. We then get Orange Cassidy versus Phoenix, which was obviously set up from last week when Phoenix tried to kick off the head of Orange Cassidy. So Phoenix tries to do it again while Cassidy's on the ramp, and he just casually steps back, and Phoenix misses. Cassidy puts his armband on, takes his glasses off, so he's taking it seriously. While at the same time he's evading all of Ray Phoenix's offense, with his hands in his pockets. They start trying to pin each other using crucifixes. Phoenix with the double stomp on the back of Cassidy's head. Cassidy hits a code red. Sorry, I hurt my back the other day, so I'm kind of just trying to... there we go. Cassidy hits a code red for a 2 count. Then Phoenix hits this wild, he bounces from the outside to the inside, huge air leg drop. Then we get picture in picture, and while that's going on, Phoenix is working on Cassidy on the outside. Cassidy eventually hits a suicide dive, goes back into the ring for a top rope splash, hits this wild spinning tilt-a-whirl DDT for a 2 count. Great sell by Phoenix. A lot of people have been selling a lot of their moves great. People taking DDTs, Twisted Fates. Everyone's been on top of their game, which is great. So then Cassidy hits this diving DDT from the top, but he only gets a 2 count. Then Phoenix hits this wild springboard from the outside to inside, flipping over Cassidy, super power bomb, but he only gets a 2 count. Then goes for his muscle buster driver, but it's actually countered into a pinning attempt by Cassidy, only gets a 2 count there. Cassidy hits an air raid crash, standing air raid crash for a 2 count. Then all of a sudden Kip Sabian comes out, obviously a participant in the casino ladder match, puts a big ladder on the ramp, climbs to the top, kind of waves, distracting them. And while Cassidy is being distracted, Phoenix gets a low blow and then a cutter and gets the win. Then Kip goes, to mock Cassidy, does his little the thumbs up and then middle finger to Cassidy. But while that's going on, Kazarian and Scorpio Sky come out and they start shaking the ladder and then flipping Kip all the way off the top of it into the ring, lands on his back. Obviously, Jimmy Havoc, who is not a participant in the match, but obviously is aligned with Kip Sabian, comes out to try and help his boy out. So a fight spills out to the outside. While this is going on, Phoenix does this flipping splash from the outside, from inside the ring to outside, and just absolutely misses everybody. His legs hit them, but he hits his back just flat on the ground. Must have dropped at least 15 feet straight on his back. Looked really, really bad. was really nervous, that he was severely hurt. Unfortunately, the first update was that he was going to be okay, but we're now hearing that unfortunately he will not be able to participate in the casino ladder match, which sucks because he always puts on great, can do some great spots there. But if it's any consolation, the bad boy Joey Janela will be taking his place, and we all know Joey Janela will just do whatever it takes for a match. So we still got our 8 participants, switching out Phoenix for Joey Janela and our mystery persons who, obviously I'll give my prediction of who I think it will be in my preview and predictions video, which will come out sometime a little bit later today. So while that's going on, then Colt Cabana does an Acai moonsault, connects with everybody. Then the best friends come out and they're in the ring with Cassie and they help launch him into a somersault that connects with everyone. His legs hit the barricade too, but not as bad. And as far as I know, he's good. He's good for the match. We then get a very, very interesting match. A lot of things happened in this match. So it was Shida and Chris Statlander versus Nyla Rose and Britt Baker. Shida and Nyla will be facing each other, as well as Statlander and Britt Baker. So Nyla dominates to start the match. Britt doesn't want to even get tagged in, kind of just moves away every time Nyla gets close. So then during the picture-in-picture, Nyla Rose forces Britt to get in the ring. And then she's battling Chris Statlander finally gets the hot tag to Shida. So then Nyla and Britt are both put into the corner, standing up, and then Shida hits a running knee strike onto both of them. And then while Britt is then in the opponent's corner, kind of sitting down, Statlander and Shida double suplex Nyla on top of Britt, but the problem was it landed on Britt's leg while she had kind of her knee up. And, it's like, I don't want to fault Britt for it because it was a freak accident, but I feel like, and I don't know if this was maybe like she just got nervous and tensed up and put her knee up, or, whether or not, even if she had her leg straightened out, it would have made any difference. But Nyla landed really bad on her knee, and you could tell Britt was obviously hurt right away. It wasn't like her faking an injury. This was, feigning an injury because she's a chicken shit heel. This was like legit injury. She took like one more bump, and then Nyla actually grabbed her and dragged her over to the corner so that she can tag in and perform on the rest of the match while Britt could get looked at. So the update on that is, unfortunately, Britt Baker, we don't know the extent of the injury, but we do know that she will be unable to compete at Double or Nothing. So instead, Penelope Ford will be taking her place and going against Chris Statlander. So now, it'll be interesting to see what people's predictions would have been. A lot of people, I'm sure, would have predicted Britt to win. But now that she's out and Penelope Ford's in, will Penelope Ford get the rub? We'll see what ends up happening with that. Obviously, as I said, I'll be talking about it in my preview and predictions. So Nyla drags her over to the corner to get looked at. Statlander eventually hits an Alabama slam on Nyla Rose while she's on the top rope. Nyla hits a beast bomb on Shida, eventually gets the win. She then, while that's going on, grabs a table, brings it into the ring, obviously, because their match is going to be no count out, no DQ. So while she's setting up to put Shida through the table, Statlander comes in to kind of break that up and then assists Shida in superplexing Nyla Rose through the table. So Shida stands tall, obviously with the math. We always talk about the math. We'll see what ends up happening with that one. We then get Moxley backstage interview, says he's going to beat Brody on Saturday and that he'll be left with no power, just a bunch of creepy dudes in gimp masks. We then get this vignette, the Sean Spears News channel. Obviously now he has his own news, kind of like an anchor, saying that breaking news that Dustin Rhodes has retired, even though nobody's heard of that. So obviously it's just, it's a joke. But that it's a tough pill to swallow, but apparently that wasn't tough for him 12 years ago, referring to Dustin and obviously some drug abuse that he had dealt with. Obviously, I assume clean now. So that, the thing that is a tough pill to swallow is that he doesn't have a match at Double or Nothing, so he just decides to challenge Dustin, which is funny because he just said that Dustin retired. So the announcers are saying, JR's like, let's just book it. So they book it, you get the graphic, Sean Spears versus Dustin Rhodes at Double or Nothing. We're then told that the buy-in, which is the kickoff countdown, preview show, whatever you want to, pre-show, whatever you want to call it. We're going to get a Private Party versus Best Friends to the number one contender for Kenny Omega and Hangman Page's AEW Tag Team titles. Best Friends are ranked number one, but this will be the official number one contender match. We're also told that the next Dynamite, we're going to get a battle royal for whoever will be the number one contender to get a title shot at whoever wins between Moxley and Brody Lee. We then get a Sammy Guevara, Matt Hardy kind of promo vignette before their match. So, Sammy's like, where do you start? It's like, Hardy tried to kill me with a fucking golf cart last week, and then we get a recap of the match interspersed with Hardy and Sammy's commentary of that match, which then leads into their one-on-one match, which is the main event of Dynamite. So Hardy starts strong, works on the outside, goes after Sammy's left hand. He then smashes Sammy's face against the ring post, which is pretty funny. Sammy counters a twist of fate, goes to a super kick. I apologize if you hear it starting to rain outside. Hardy has been apparently wrestling longer than than Sammy's been alive. Sammy's only 26. Hardy's been wrestling for 27 years, which is a pretty interesting stat. So then Hardy tries to go for like a razor's edge, but then Sammy counters that with a Rana. He hits a twisting tope con hero onto Hardy on the outside. He then starts smashing Hardy's face into the ring post, kind of like a receipt for what happened earlier. Hardy goes for a side effect, only gets a 2 count. He then goes for a twist of fate, but Sammy has this like really sick kind of counter, like flipping handspring out of it. No, I'm sorry. This one, he hits it, but Sammy rolls out of the ring on this one. Sammy then goes for a shooting star press. Hardy rolls out of the way, but Sammy lands on his feet, which is pretty impressive. Then there's a twist of fate by Hardy for a 2 count. Springboard cutter by Sammy for a 2 count. He then goes for a shooting star press again, but Hardy gets the knees up. And then Hardy hits a twist of fate. Eventually does get the win. 1, 2, 3. So then Hardy brings a chair into the ring, and as he's about to hit Sammy, Jericho appears on the big screen, and the Inner Circle is now beating on Kenny while he's kind of like held against the goalpost on the field. So obviously you see Hardy running out because Daly's place is connected to the field, as we've seen on a number of times on Dynamite. So he's going there to go get his his friend and partner, I don't know whatever you want to call him right now. So he goes running out there. So then while that's going on, the Bucks show up where the front row of the fans would be by the end zone. They're wearing masks, AEW kind of face masks. They do a double crossbody on Santana and Ortiz into the end zone. The brawl breaks out. Nick grabs a chair, starts using it on Jericho. While the melee is going on, we get from commentary that for the Stadium Stampede match, the ring is actually going to be in the middle of the stadium, but the pins can count anywhere. So that'll be pretty cool to see what ends up happening, how that goes. So the Inner Circle starts to take the advantage, and then all of a sudden, in the distance, you see someone sprinting from the other end zone, and it's Hangman Page, full head of steam, doing a 100-yard dash in jeans, a button-down, and cowboy boots, starts clotheslining everybody, starts beating on everybody, and then the Inner Circle starts to kind of like, walk away. And then while that's going on, the Elite stand tall, but Hangman doesn't want to be a part of it. Even though they're trying to gesture him to come back, he doesn't. He just walks off, does his business. So they all start to pose in the end zone, and then the board above them has the Elite logo, kind of like Inner Circle had last week. So that is it for Dynamite, the go-home show. I thought it was a really good episode. I'm really excited for tonight. I'm going to be celebrating with a little bit of the bubbly tonight. So I'm going to do that. So Double or Nothing happens tonight. As always, we have my match of the week. So I'm going to go with the Orange Cassidy Ray Phoenix match. This was, even though there was a long finish, this match was great. Obviously, there's been, long-term storytelling between Best Friends and Death Triangle, Pac and Cassidy, Phoenix and Cassidy from last week. Obviously both can put on great matches. Cassidy can when he's not just being a comedy act, and obviously he did his comedy act shtick a little bit, but mostly kept it serious. And the fact that they were able to do all the moves that they were doing, tell a great story in the ring, and aside from the long finish, I just thought it was a great match. It was entertaining. I think the crowd would have popped huge for this because it was just really good. So that's my match of the week. As always, here's my social media stuff. Don't forget to follow me, like, share, comment, subscribe to my channel. Hopefully, this new setup comes out a little better, maybe a little more professional looking. And look out for my preview and predictions for Double or Nothing, my WWE Week in Review, as well as my recap and review of Double or Nothing as well. So, as always, stay safe, enjoy tonight if you're watching, and bye now. All right. Whew. Man, it's hot out here. What the? Why can't I say? What is going on? What the? I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm freaking out. I can't say the word or any other thing. And I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. It's really scaring me right now. Do you happen to know what's going on? Is this your doing? What the hell is that? What the? Sitting on the parental controls the whole time. Fuck, shit, asshole. Okay, we're back.